Hail Internet, it's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. Today we're talking about the finale, Season 2 of House of the Dragon. The Queen Who Ever Was.
Yes, that generated quite a lot of conversation.
Yeah, we will talk more about that title in a second. I'm not sold on it, by the way, but anyway, we'll talk about it later.
All right.
Same as it ever was.
Convincing to do.
Yeah. We open with Team Green emissary Tywin Lannister attempting to make an alliance with the seafaring Triarchy in an attempt to break Corlys's naval blockade. But to solidify the alliance, he's got to mud wrestle Admiral Lohar. So this is your comedic relief for the episode. So that is what it is. All right. We end with a montage of armies on the move. Lord of the Rings reference there, Paul. The board is set.
Oh,
the
I
pieces
thought you were going to say West Side Story reference. We're going to get a day tonight.
Boy. Anyway, okay. We get individual shots of Alicent and Rhaenyra, each standing, staring wistfully at the setting sun. Credits. We gotta wait 2 years for the next episode.
Sure.
All that said, Paul.
Yes.
What'd you think of the Season 2 finale?
Yeah, I was satisfied mostly. I mean, I think I wasn't expecting much. Even though people were saying this is the big thing, but it's not like I really wanted a battle or anything. So
I got you.
The fact that Alicent and Rhaenyra had a scene where it was almost like they wanted to make a point of having Alicent really have to work for it. She's just like Rhaenyra's just sort of like what like, have you forgotten how you were treating me? And
we'll talk maybe more about that too. But that scene, yes, the conversation itself.
Yeah.
I appreciated Rhaenyra's tone. Also her impatience, like just get to the point.
Yeah.
Enough with the prologue. Blah blah blah. What do you want? Was pretty awesome.
Yeah. But several good scenes that I was happy with. I liked. Was it Alan? Is it?
Yes, Alan and Corlys.
That was really nice. The way it sort of you could think that Alan was just sort of like, well, that's the way life is.
Yeah, I'll get all great. Hey, this whatever comes along. This is pretty good.
Hey, I don't ask too much from my dad. It's like, I don't ask too much from my dad because he ignored us all this time. He's actually hiding quite a bit of anger there. So.
Yeah. The reason I'm not grateful. Which is basically is that I resent you. That's why.
Yeah.
I tried not to say it because I was trying to be nice to you, but fine, you are a dick, and I don't like you. Like, okay, all right.
Can I go back to my job now that you forced me into?
Right. Yeah, and I'll talk about, I was maybe a little more disappointed we didn't get some high points, but I will admit that there are several good talking head scenes. There are dramatic scenes of dialogue, and you just named two of them that I really liked, Alan and Corlys and Alicent and Rhaenyra, so yes.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated, and actually I bought it too, Damon's change. Okay, he was... guys like, hey, maybe you can take over. Yeah,
now also that was a nice moment. I'm forgetting that guy's name, but Rhaenyra's emissary.
Yes.
Because he's like, essentially that is treason.
Yes.
He's like, they need a king, not Rhaenyra.
I approved of that when it's like, wait, did you hear that? Traitor.
right. The trees like traitor.
Yeah.
Damn, the trees are against me.
Yeah. It's like, wow, is this Wizards of Oz? What?
But the look on his face, and it was good when Daemon ultimately bends the knee, and they cut to him. And he's like,
I guess I should bend my knee now.
No, because I think it's a reasonable. I'm not sure how that works out in the book or anything, but I would say it's a reasonable outcome that he is executed. I mean, at this point, but he's got 2 years to live. so he's fine. But yeah, no, that was that moment. Maybe it was one of the highlights of the episode when Rhaenyra enters Harrenhal Hall, and it's filled with soldiers, and none of them bow to her. None of them even seem to exactly know who she is, even though there's a dragon perched overhead. They're like, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And so it takes Daemon coming forward and publicly bowing, bending the knee that everybody's like, oh, okay, I got it. So that was just, that look on her face, she plays it well. Where she's in there and she's like, oh, crap, what do I do here that no one actually acknowledges me?
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that was a very good scene as well. Agreed.
Yeah. And so he gave a rousing speech, which is what he does. But this is after he has a little tete-a-tete with the tree. Touch its sap.
Yes.
And I needed to hear people talking about it. How the little antler head guy coming by was an important thing.
So there is a humanoid with antlers that walks by, and in the background, I think it's an interpretation of a green man, which has its own mythological implications. But the green men, specifically in George Martin's story, guard the Isle of Faces, which is just a short distance from Harrenhal. So, kind of
just going off for a stroll.
Creatures. Yep. But also, if you watch that little end thing that HBO does in each of the episodes, apparently that face that he's touching to have the vision, that is carved in the likeness of George R.R. Martin.
Yes.
They carved.
I think I did hear that. Yeah.
Little caricature of his face in there. And then, of course, Daemon has this vision where they're trying to, they successfully link it to Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So he sees his own death. He sees the death of the dragons. He sees a young three-eyed raven with the birthmark that identifies him as Brynden Rivers.
Yes.
He sees the coming of the White Walkers. He sees Daenerys. He probably doesn't recognize it as Daenerys.
Yes, it culminates there, that she on the throne.
Yeah, right, so he has Daenerys bringing the dragons back.
Rhaenyra.
And then Rhaenyra sitting on the Iron Throne.
Yes.
Showing her apparent place in this whole Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
And then there's that odd little ending where apparently Helena's been remote viewing.
Oh, yes, right.
Into Daemon's vision from King's Landing.
Yeah.
So she's obviously got a good grip on her powers.
Yeah. It's nice that little theater there that they can all go to.
Yeah. Hopefully she doesn't like Hodor somebody.
Oh yeah.
Hodor's Daemon. They're like, oh man. And then that subsequent talk she has with Aemon is good stuff as well.
Yeah.
So he's determined to have her ride her dragon to even the odds, and he can't understand why she wouldn't, if nothing else for her own self-preservation.
Right.
But then she's like, look, she comes out, I saw you burn Aegon. She'd already hinted at it earlier.
Yeah, and he's all like, what, you don't know? Like, oh, no, I didn't. No, I'm telling you, I saw it.
Right. Then she also goes on to say,
yes.
I see that Aegon is sitting on a wooden throne.
Yes.
Which is likely some kind of a wheelchair, some sorts of, whatever.
Maybe
a modified chair for his.
Or maybe she's referring to where he is now.
True.
She could be just saying that his throne
he's off in a carriage or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she says that she's seen his death as well. His being Aemon's death.
Yeah.
And that gets to him because I think he buys in, and probably should, that she has some prophetic abilities. So
I wonder if he does, or if he's just merely thinking, okay, she's just not going to do this.
Maybe she's just really good at guessing.
It's like, okay, you're clearly not on my side. You're imagining me dead.
Then there's another great conversation in some ways. It's Kristen Cole gets nihilistic,
right?
Basically.
Yes.
He needs therapy. In a world where they probably don't have that. He's clinically depressed. And so it's Gawain is holding a sword at him, but to be like, Gawain's figured out that he's been having sex with Alicent.
Now, did it bother you that he came to that conclusion?
In other words, how did he find out? Is what you're asking, or
Did that bother you?
He had no, it didn't.
Okay.
It was a little awkward. I'll say that the scene was awkward because it just opened with Gawain pointing a sword at him.
Yeah.
and we didn't get any of the Gawain figures it out stuff. But I think the idea was
I didn't mind it, because
when he gets the handkerchief and he's got her favor. I think that's probably where it came from. Yeah, it didn't bother me. It was just a little like, wait, why is Gawain pointing a sword at him? I didn't know if he was pointing a sword at him at first because like, I object to the way you're leading our men or whatever. But it was obvious eventually that he's talking about his sister. But then he basically Kristen Cole like depresses Gawain. He gets like,
Francis convinces him that convinces him like, I'll be dead soon enough anyway.
Right. So he's like, once the dragons dance, we're all gonna be dead. Yeah. We're marching towards our annihilation.
Yeah, that'll do plenty to rescue Alicent's good name.
To die will be a kind of relief. Like, oh my God. This guy. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So, why didn't take the sword and just put it onto his head? Like, go ahead.
Yeah. Right. That's fine. I couldn't care less. We do have these villains in this show, much like Game of Thrones, but
sure.
We do see, like in this case, this guy does seem to be suffering. He seems to be suffering for his mistakes in some way, which at least makes him slightly more palatable than just like
Slightly, yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's, gonna disappoint us again in the future.
Yeah, sure, yes.
Ulf is kind of a dick.
Oh, yeah. They're playing a difference there in the nature of the different lowborn, if you want to call them, the lowborn dragon riders.
Yeah.
And so Ulf is the one who's like, whoa, check it out. I just got my lottery ticket. Boo, 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 boo. And he's, feeling his power.
And I think it was last episode that Corlys's son cast doubt on whether or not he was actually brave. Adam, right? Because it was like him sort of saying, I'm bold, and you sort of like, we'll see who's the bold one.
Right.
So I really setting I feel setting an image of somebody who is talking big.
Right.
But really trying to make it seem like he belongs.
Got the bravado. It was interesting that our lowborn dragon riders, which I assume identifying with the small folk, are less than eager to burn thousands of innocent people. They're like told like, well, we're going to have to go burn a bunch of folks. And they're like, wait, including, did I sign on for this? There's a little moment of that.
Was that, do you think that was someone other than
Hugh?
A big star, Hugh? Yeah.
I don't know. I got the I'm going to have to go back and watch, but I had the feeling even Ulf was kind of like, well, wait, I don't want to like just burn a bunch of innocent folks. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just Hugh, but anyway, it was just I just thought that was an interesting contrast because it seemed like Jace was like, yeah, of course. Yes, that's what we will do. We will go burn a bunch of townspeople, and that will turn the tide of the battle.
Maybe Adam as well, because he's willing to do what needs to be done.
Which then plays into perhaps why Rhaenyra might be more inclined to accept this somewhat dubious "it's a trap" style offering from Alicent, because it would relieve bloodshed. So after Rhaenyra gets to the point, the point is that Alicent is saying, hey, Aemon is going to be trying to take Harrenhal with his dragon, and while he's gone, Helena's in charge. I can guarantee that Helena will just open the gates for you, and you can take King's Landing without any bloodshed. And so, Rhaenyra kind of brings up Aegon, and there's this sticking point. Aegon's gonna have to die, and so that was a really interesting moment there where Alicent's like, she's biting her nails like she did when she was a kid. And she's like, okay. That's fine. She doesn't say it, but she says it.
It's good that she didn't know that, or it'd be funny if she did know. She's just like, okay, I gotta sell this. That I know.
Oh, right. Aegon's no longer there. Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. Once you lay hands on him, that's fine. Yeah.
Can I do it? I think that'll say more if I do it.
Yeah, right. So yes, in the meantime, we see in the end, the little last montage, Laris has convinced Aegon to flee with him to Bravos to wait out the war. Laris brings up the point that he thinks Aemond will be killing Aegon in the near future, and so if he wants to survive, they should flee together. Let Rhaenyra and Aemond fight. And when they are all, the dust settles, you can come in as the nice king.
Yeah.
Alicent is wearing the blue dress again. That was interesting. As a kind of a rejection of her.
Oh, I missed that.
The
green.
Team Green. Because remember when she put on the green dress in season 1, it was a big deal. So she's like, no, see? Aha! The trappings. I don't have them anymore.
Interesting.
And it's, the setup is, we talked about how the setup was a little forced when Rhaenyra went to King's Landing. And so they've doubled down on it because they wanted to kind of bookend it. Like, and now Alicent's coming to Rhaenyra and the tables have turned. It seems maybe even a little more contrived in that way. But the conversation is worth watching. So I guess the results, I'm not sure that I necessarily buy the process. But the result was we want to have them in the same room again talking because we like these characters together. And they figured out a way to do it. And that conversation is worth watching. So,
I mean, I imagine that, and I think maybe, I'm not sure if we discussed it before, but I imagine that in the books, it's not Alicent who is making that happen.
I think that's
that
true.
They're really deciding, I think, like one thing is I've heard, and I can understand people's affection for how the story is told in the book. If you frame Rhaenyra and Alicent both as mothers who are valiantly and cruelly protecting their own families, then it makes sense why they go to war and why they wouldn't think, is there a way for us to have peace? But I think perhaps the appeal for the writers of the show adapting it decided, you know what? What if they actually, even despite all these actions, still desperately want to have another end? It's like that's a different sort of drama there. And they made a point of establishing that relationship between the two characters. Yep. So to have them come together in order to try to, avert and make it less, I don't know. I mean, I guess I prefer that story since that's the one that I'm watching. It's a perfectly valid, tale.
And they definitely have pushed in on their relationship between those two people in particular, and then to have them on opposite sides of the globe, or they're not really.
Yeah, I can see the appeal of the other way, which is like fierce mothers, ruthlessly bringing their families to ruin.
And then once they split, they split. Once they've set their little corners, they go off to their corners, and they don't, and that's it. And here they're like, no, we're going to try to show that maybe there's still, some lingering attempts to rectify the situation.
Yeah, and it allows you to have scenes where you can actually see the change and how the events are, what the effect they're having on those two characters. By having them actually see each other again after those situations.
Now, having watched this season in its entirety, I think it's clear that one of, if not the primary objective for season 2 was to set the table for and ultimately introduce the universe of dragon riders for the show.
Sure.
So I think Rhaena finding the dragon sheep stealer from the book, I'm almost certainly it's sheep stealer, is your last addition to that notable group. Here are your dragon riders for what's to come.
You didn't say from the book, right?
Sheep Stealer is written by a different person in the book.
Yes.
But just saying, they never named this dragon. I'm pretty sure it's Sheep Stealer.
Right.
Is my point.
Right. Yeah, because I think it's another change to have Rhaena do that.
Yeah.
I think I think there's potential for them to do interesting things there. It feels like something that they are fine changing, like a number of different details.
And it's kind of an economy of characters, right? Thing where you're like, okay, let's,
Yeah.
But so that said, so they got this, they've established this universe of dragon riders. There is a little bit of like Chekhov's dragon here where you've got like,
Sure.
10 or so, I don't know, a dozen dragons in play.
Right.
And we saw an impressive fight mid-season, episode 4.
Sure.
And I think there was, you mentioned it, an expectation of kind of an action-packed finale.
Yeah.
And instead we got this, admittedly, dramatic, several good talking head scenes. But then knowing how long it's going to be till season 3 arrives, it's a little bit of like a narrative buzzkill. A little under, like, oh,
sure.
okay.
Sure.
So I can see why people might have been disappointed in to not have this.
Sure.
Now we got to wait. If next week it was like, and then they're going to go to, and then you'd be like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I think the idea that now they're going to, who knows how long before we get to see the outcome of all this is you lose your patience. Maybe some people.
Do.
Also, remember the season was cut down from 10 to 8 episodes.
Yes.
So that I would assume that would have affected where the showrunners elected to end the season.
Yeah,
they may not have originally decided to end the season here, but they're like, you know what, 8 episodes. Let's just get everybody on a dragon, and we'll figure out the rest, next time. Also, the showrunners did confirm, I think earlier this week, that the series is intended to be 4 seasons. So it's not like a 10-season arc or an 8-season arc. It's a 4-season arc. So, also, no Cheese's dog again. Now I gotta wait 2 years to find out what happened to Cheese's dog.
That's right. Yeah.
Boo!
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the title real fast. So, The Queen Who Ever Was. It's a play on Rhaenys's title, The Queen Who Never Was.
Yeah.
And in fact, in this episode, Corlys renames his rebuilt ship The Queen Who Never Was in honor of his deceased wife.
Yeah.
So I assume The Queen Who Ever Was is Rhaenyra? And perhaps this is a nod to Daemon finally recognizing her as his queen.
And maybe also the place that she has in... the lore, the coming,
Okay, right. It's a little Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Okay. It does come off, though, as a bit of a corny pun. I'll say that. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of like a swing and the miss pun name for an improv group. Like, in the world of improv, puns are ubiquitous. Some of them clever. Some of them fall flat. In fact, there was, what was it? There was a college group. I think they were out of New York. Surely they're not watching this video. And they were fine. The group itself was great. Oh my God, they were good. No, they were fine. But their pun-based group name, God, it hurts to even say it, but it was Happily Ever Laughter.
Oh.
Which just makes me shake my head. Anyway, The Queen Who Ever Was kind of feels like the Happily Ever Laughter of episode titles. It's just like, all right. The Queen Who Ever Was. Got it. Okay. So it's fine. It's whatever. It's not a deal breaker or anything. I think you could have just said The Queen Who Never Was, although then you're like,
but then
why is Rhaenys so important? But yeah.
Yeah, no, she's been gone for several episodes, so
yeah.
It's
but
like, now there's a ship that's called that.
There's a ship called that. Yeah, I get you. In that montage, we also saw a brief shot of Otto Hightower in prison somewhere.
Yeah.
So he's been off the map. People are like, we're trying to get in touch with him. He won't respond. Well, that's why he's been in prison. So
bad cellular service.
So where do you think he's imprisoned?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the players well enough. That's typically not the kind of thing where I feel like, ooh, I must figure it out.
My first thought was maybe he's a prisoner aboard one of those Triarchy ships. That like the Triarchy captured him and they figured out who he was, recognized him, and imprisoned him. Maybe. I did see an interesting theory.
Oh.
That I don't know that I ascribe to, but it's kind of a fun idea that perhaps Larys has him imprisoned back in King's Landing.
That's interesting.
That he never left. That he's still hanging out in King's Landing. That sounds risky for Larys, though, if he got discovered.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Occam's razor.
Although, if that happened, he might have, had his hands. He wouldn't have done it himself.
Sure. Good point.
As long as he didn't visit him in order to laugh in his face, he'd be covered.
Right. Good point. So that could be a reveal when Rhaenyra inevitably walks through the gates of King's Landing.
That'd be
Otto
unfortunate
Hightowers him into the jail.
in all of season 3 if we don't find out the answer to that question. That would be rather be strange.
Almost as bad as not finding out what happened to Cheese's dog, but yes, I get your point. Cheese's dog.
You're gonna make me want to see a scene where it's like, what's this, dog?
Ah!
Oh, very good.
You get him, Cheese's dog. Don't you listen to Paul. You're good. So yeah, anyway, it was not an action-packed finale, but it did have several compelling dialogues happening between various folks, and they did push this plot forward so that when season 3 arrives, their passage of time will have occurred.
Sure.
So yeah, it was successful. I can understand why some might have been like, Although I also think back to the Game of Thrones days.
Yeah.
It always did seem like, not always, but several of their best, like, that was an amazing thing happening at the end, near the end of a season, usually was the penultimate episode. It was like episode 7, the big thing happens. Then episode 8 is, we're setting the table for the next season. Right. So here you could say that maybe the end of episode 7, where Rhaenyra's got her dragons and Vhagar's forced to turn and fly away because there's so many dragons on Dragonstone, maybe that's your, like, in their mind, that was their big ending kind of beat for this season, and now they're setting the table in the last episode. Perhaps they kind of use that model.
Interesting. I think you're probably more hitting it on the nose with how it used to be a longer season run.
They lost 2 episodes, so they're like, all right, well, this is what we're going to do. We'll be back talking about The Umbrella Academy, which is dropping 6 episodes, season 4 of The Umbrella Academy. So come on back for that. Thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
No problem.
And we'll talk to everybody next time.
Bye.
Bye.